Dear students, as you have seen in modules 1 and 2, we primarily dealt with the CRD, completely randomized design, and two types of models. One is the fixed effects additive model, other is the random effects additive model, the model implications, the nature of data, and the analysis goals, etc. This time in module 3, I have an entirely different idea. I will bank more on Sagorika so that she can explain what is going on. I'll just give a startup by introducing more formally the CRD model, and then I'll tell her to take up other models as you have studied in your undergraduate course, namely the RBD and the latent square design. So we'll make a more formal approach to these models in the course in module 3. Let us start with a formal introduction to the experimental setup. So let's go back and give a mature shape to what we have discussed before. I like this textbook type presentation as well. Naturally, I will start with an introduction to the experimental setup and use the language of design of experiments. The experimental setup goes like this. There are a given number of treatments whose effects are to be compared. In order to do that, in the simplest possible manner, we look for a collection of demonstrably homogeneous experimental units. Then we administer the treatments to the available experimental units, only one on each experimental unit, and this results into experimental data. It is now possible to postulate a statistical model for the experimental data and draw valid inference on some aspects of the relative effectiveness of the treatments.
Sir, we have learnt about three basic principles in experimentation. May I add whatever I know in terms of randomization, replication, and local control? Now, for randomization, while allocating the treatments to the experimental units, we should adopt randomization, which would do away with experimenters' personal bias, if any. Now, for replication, we need at least as many experimental units as there are treatments. However, in order that we are in a position to draw valid inference and establish its credibility with confidence, we definitely need more number of experimental units. Once these are available, we may allocate more than one experimental units to the treatments. In other words, we may have replicated data. Now, for local control, the concept of blocking is coming into account. In spite of our best efforts, it is often difficult to ensure that the experimental units are truly homogeneous in nature. There may be external factors affecting their homogeneity.
Sagorika, in this context, do you recall that when we took up one of the problems in the earlier module, we said there are 33
Yes, sir.
fields,
Yes,
but
sir.
then those are located in 7 different regions.
Yes,
so
sir.
there was a regional variation
Yes, sir.
that forced heterogeneity in the experimental units
setting.
to start with.
Yes, sir.
That's the kind of thing we are talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you write bullet number 2 precisely says about that.
And for identification of such factors helps the experimenter to classify the experimental units into homogeneous sets, technically called blocks. So here the concept of blocking is coming into account. Now, in this sense, these external factors are known as blocking factors, and these serve as local control on the experimental units, thereby ensuring their homogeneity within each block.
Because the idea is that within a block, the experimental units are seemingly homogeneous,
Yes.
whereas across different blocks, they are heterogeneous. Their
Yes, sir.
effects are heterogeneous because that is how the blocks have been formed.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Very good. I am very happy to see your maturity and your way of putting the things, all the concepts in one place. I must now add the following in terms of the effects of blocking. whenever blocking factors are present, it is always advisable that we take cognizance of the presence of such factors and incorporate them in the model that we adopt, rather than ignoring them. The effects of such factors may be treated as nuisance parameters in the model because our primary interest is in looking for the treatment effects. But these are nuisance parameters. Incidentally, they are coming in the model. We have to accommodate them and then try to eliminate their effects towards our goal. Rather than ignoring their presence, first we accommodate them in the model and then we try to eliminate their effects while drawing valid inference on the treatment effects comparisons. That sounds more logical.
Yes, sir. Sir, in this context of CRD, RBD and LSD, we were told about classifications of the experimental designs depending on the number of so-called blocking factors. Let me try to enumerate. In the simplest experimental situations, depending on the number of recognizable and available blocking factors, we may classify the experimental designs as follows. So, the first one is completely randomized design, that is CRD, and here there is no blocking factors. So, it is a zero-way elimination of heterogeneity
Because there is
design
no heterogeneity.
and one-way ANOVA. Yes, sir. Yes.
The idea is that all the experimental material to start with are homogeneous. There is no blocking factor, so there is no external variation.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
the moment we put treatment, then they become segregated in different parts.
Okay,
That's
sir.
why it is zero-way elimination of heterogeneity
Heterogeneity.
of the blocking factor because there is no blocking factor here.
Okay, okay.
And it leads to one-way ANOVA
ANOVA
model.
model. Yes, sir. And the next concept is randomized block design or RBD. One single blocking factor is there and it is one-way elimination of heterogeneity design and two-way ANOVA model.
Yeah, that's why it is called block design because there is only one blocking factor, you call it a block design. Then everybody will know that you are talking about blocks.
Yes, sir.
The blocks are conglomerations of homogeneous experimental units.
Yes, sir.
Between two blocks there is a difference because the fertility gradient here is an inherent property of this block and the fertility gradient there is an inherent property of the other block. And the two blocks are different, therefore
So
their
that's why
effects are
the blocking
different.
factor is coming in.
That's why it's called one-way elimination of heterogeneity.
Okay, sir. And the next one is Latin square design. Here, two blocking factors represented by rows and columns. And obviously, it is a two-way elimination of heterogeneity design and a three-way ANOVA model. So, sir, I think it is possible to generalize this classification to higher numbers as well.
Right you are, Sagorika. Higher dimensional layouts are discussed in similar manners. So before I proceed to quickly review RBDs and LSDs, I want you to prepare a class note on completely randomized designs based on our discussion so far. I hope you can do that.
Sir, it will be my pleasure to put down the discussions on CRDs. I will try my best to be systematic as well. I might sometimes go a bit beyond what we have discussed. So, for CRD layout, assume V treatments are to be compared for their differential effects and we have available our total of n which is greater or equal to little p experimental units, all internally homogeneous. Now, whenever capital N is more than small v, we decompose n as n is equal to n1 plus n2 plus up to nv, such that for each ni's are greater or equal to 1. Next, we allocate at random a set of n1 experimental units to the first treatment. Next, a randomly chosen set of n2 experimental units to the second treatment and so on. The numbers n1, n2, nv are known as the replication numbers. Now, for a CRD model, we denote yi1, yi2, yij up to yini, the responses measured on the experimental units receiving the ith treatment.
Excuse me, yeah. So in the context of this model, whenever we say responses, there are many connotations of this broad word responses. If it is agricultural experiment, we are talking about the output or the yield. If it is an industrial experiment, there is an input output. Naturally, input raw material is given the output comes, there Yij refers to the output. So the response is a very generic name given here. Okay?
Yes.
Continue, please.
And here, obviously, I runs from 1 to V.
Yeah.
Now,
over as many treatments as there are available in the
yes, and V
experiment.
is the number of treatments.
Right.
Yes, sir. Now, traditionally, the model adopted is one of the following two types, and their Yij is equal to mu plus tau I plus epsilon ij, and the other one is Yij is equal to mu I plus epsilon ij. So the first one is referred to as 1 and the second one is 2. Now, in 1, mu represents the general mean and tau I represents any additional effect of treatment I in excess of the general term.
So that's why this tau I could go either way.
Yes,
if
sir.
it is more efficient, much more than the average, tau I could be positive.
Positive, yes,
if
sir.
it is less than the average, then it will be negative.
Negative,
Tau I can go both ways.
Yes, sir. So for 2, mu I represents the true effect of treatment I. And in both the models, errors are assumed to be homoscedastic with mean 0 and variance sigma square. Now, with reference to 1, the individual parameters are not estimable. However, we may estimate from the data all elementary treatment contrasts defined by differences of the treatment effects of the type tau 1 minus tau 2, tau 1 minus tau 3, tau 1 minus tau 4 and so on. Now, in 2, we are in a position to estimate all the individual parameters mu i's.
Yeah, that's why you should note carefully that the notations are made even different so that there is no confusion. One is mu plus tau I, other is simply mu I. Mu I is the effect of the treatment I. And when you write mu plus tau I is the extra effect beyond the general mean mu. That is how we separate out the interpretations.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Next.
Now, with reference to model 2, we are defining mu is equal to sum over mu I by V and tau I is equal to mu I minus mu. Then 2 will reduce to 1. Thus, the general mean has the interpretation like the average effect of the treatments. We will carry out the analysis of data arising out of the model 1.
Yeah, there are two different ways of looking to the model. That's what it says, okay?
Yes, sir. Now, here is the nature of error function and measurement of error variance. So, according to our model description, for treatment number I, say the underlying Ni observations should behave in an identical fashion. Any discrepancy among these observations may be attributed to random variation, and this is the so-called error in the model. We may assume that these errors are both positive and negative. They average out to 0, and the mean squared error, that is sum over j Yij minus Yi bar square by Ni minus 1, gives an idea about the extent of error variation measured by the error variance sigma square. So, this kind of contribution to the error variance arises from each within treatment dataset.
Very good.
And this indicates that the MSE is equal to double summation Yij minus Yi bar whole square by sum over Ni minus 1, which is equal to sum of squares of error by n minus v. And the MSE serves as the pooled estimator of sigma square. And in this expression 3, MSE stands for MSE mean square errors, and SSE stands for sum of squares of error. So, the above considerations will absorb summation Ni minus 1 is equal to capital N minus V observational contrasts, leaving aside the means Y1 bar, Y2 bar, Yi bar up to Yv bar for possible inference on the treatment differences. So, according to the first model, model 1, expectation of Yi bar is equal to mu plus tau I, where I is equal to 1 to V, small v. These V plus 1 parameters and V treatment means, indicating thereby the only treatment differences that can be estimated. So, we can deduce the estimate of tau I minus tau j is equal to Yi bar minus Yj bar, where 1 is less or equal to I, less than j, less or equal to V, and the variance of the estimator of tau I minus tau j will be is equal to sigma square into 1 by Ni plus 1 by Nj.
Yeah.
And the average variance will be the denoted by capital V, and that is equal to 2 sigma square by capital H, where capital H being the harmonic mean of the NIs. So this is based on estimates of all pairwise treatment differences.
Let me give a historic note here. In the 1940s, precisely maybe 43 or 45, Kempthorne came up with this expression for the average variance of the estimates of all pairwise differences in the context of a CRD in the form of 2 sigma square over capital H. Capital H denoting the harmonic mean of the replication numbers. He gave that expression. It came up in the literature for the first time.
Okay, sir. So we are going for testing H naught, which is equality of treatment effects. Now, under normality of the errors, SSB is equal to summation I Ni into yi bar minus y bar whole square, which is approximately chi-square with V minus 1 degrees of freedom under H naught.
When it says approximately, that basically means it is distributed as this under normal.
Under normal.
Yeah, if the errors are normal, then this is exact.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the sum of squares of error, that is SSE, is equal to double summation sum over I and j.
Yij minus y bar I dot.
So whole square, which follows I square with error degrees of freedom capital N minus V, which is denoted as nu E.
Nu E.
Next,
to test for the equality of the treatment effect.
Hence, analysis of variance F test is derived as F is equal to SSB by V minus 1 divided by SSE by N minus V. And F is equal to MSB by MSE with degrees of freedom V minus 1 and N minus V. So, in the above, SSB is equal to sum of squares between, that is between sum of squares. MSB is equal to mean squared between, that between treatments. MSE is equal to mean square error within treatment. And under H naught, the F ratio in 9 follows central F distribution with degrees of freedom as we have indicated above. So the ANOVA table will look like the sources of variation will be between treatments and within treatments, and corresponding to the between treatments, the degrees of freedom will be V minus 1. The sum of squares between SSB is equal to summation of I Ni into yi bar minus y bar whole square. The MSB is equal to SSB by the degrees of freedom. And for within treatment, the degrees of freedom will be N minus V,
etc. as you shown in the table.
SSE and MSE were discussed earlier. So the F will be MSB by MSE.
Right.
And the total degrees of freedom is capital N minus 1. So the benefit of testing the above hypothesis is that at one go, we can examine if all the treatment effects are more or less the same or there exist significant differences.
Yes, this F test gives an estimate for the hypothesis. It's a test for the hypothesis which combines all the treatment effects together. That is the power of F test.
Yes,
okay. Yeah, so far you have done a very good job. You have exceeded my expectation in terms of the preparation of the class notes based on our discussion. Sagorika, after this formal introduction to the models, let us now take up some questions. I have prepared 3 questions and 3 MCQs. Here comes my question number 1. In a CRD involving V treatments with their respective true unknown effects tau 1, tau 2, tau V, an experimenter is interested in the treatment contrasts. So read carefully. Eta 1 equal to tau 1 minus tau 2 over root 2. Eta 2 equal to tau 1 plus tau 2 minus 2 tau 3 over root 6, etc., etc. The last one, eta v minus 1 equal to tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau v minus 1 minus tau v minus 1 times tau v divided by square root of v into v minus 1. The replication numbers of the V treatments as usual are respectively N1, N2, Nv subject to a total of small n. The question has 2 parts. First one, work out an expression for the average variance of the estimates of the eta contrasts labeled above and show that this is the least when ni's are all equal, assuming that small n, the total number of observations, is an integer multiple of v, the number of treatments.
Okay, sir.
If the number of observations is an integer multiple of the number of treatments, so that for estimation of the average variance of the eta contrasts mentioned above, the least average variance will come when n i's are all equal. The second question is, what would have been the solution to the average variance minimization problem in case small n is not an integer multiple of v? State and prove your claim.
Okay,
So these are the two questions given under question number 1. Question number 2 says, for the same setup as in question 1, you suggest a test for testing the problem eta 1 equal to eta 2 equal to eta v minus 1 equal to 0. So given the model in terms of tau 1, tau 2, tau v, I form my estimation problem in terms of eta 1, eta 2, eta v minus 1 defined above. How can I test the hypothesis is not eta 1 equal to eta 2 equal to eta v minus 1 equal to 0. So I have to develop a test in terms of eta. Question number 3 says, for the same hypothesis as stated in question number 2, how would you go about the testing problem in case the within treatment sum of squares is missing for the last 2 treatments? So you have to remember what we talked about in case of in module 1 and module 2 about sum of squares within missing. That idea has to be borrowed here. The problem is testing the hypothesis involving eta contrasts in the situation when some of the sum of squares within are missing. You can now read the MCQs. Let's see.
Okay, sir. So the first question is, in a CRD model, consider 3 sets of treatment contrasts. The first one is set 1, elementary treatment contrast, that are tau 1 minus tau 2, tau 1 minus tau 3 up to tau 1 minus tau v. The next set is elementary treatment contrast, tau 2 minus tau 1, tau 2 minus tau 3 up to tau 2 minus tau v. And the third set is mutually orthogonal treatment contrasts, that are tau 1 minus tau 2, tau 1 plus tau 2 minus 2 tau 3, tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau 3 minus 3 tau 4,
etc. etc. Till the end.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we need to consider both usual estimation and testing problems.
So what are the questions?
And the question are, there is no difference among the 3 formulations above for testing H naught, which is all the V treatments effects are equal, and the options are true, false, or it depends on V, which is even or odd, and the choice of NIs.
So we are referring to the CRD model. In the model we have got tau 1, tau 2, tau v.
Yes, sir.
There are 3 formulations given, set 1, set 2, set 3. And the question is, there is no difference among the 3 formulations for testing problem. H not all V treatment effects are equal. And you are given 3 options.
3 options, yes, sir.
So whether all the 3 statements are equivalent, the true or false, or it depends on whether the number of treatments is even or odd, and it depends also on the choice of the replication numbers. Good. So these are the MCQs coming up here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So these are primarily based on CRD. Okay. To sum it up all, what we have done is we have taken a formal look into the classification of different experimental designs in terms of CRD, RBD and LSD, mainly from the point of view of blocking factors. Whether there are any external sources of variation before putting the treatments, and if so, how many are there, how do they affect the model, and so on. Then we came back to CRD model, talked more about the data analysis, and we took up some interesting questions and MCQs. The questions have some intriguing part, namely whether there are different versions of the model, whether they are equivalent or not, from estimation point of view, if there is any finite difference among them. These are the basic things that one should learn and one should look into. So that is how we closed this module. Now we look forward to the module 4.